What's up, everyone? I got a special guest back again. Eric Crocker had him last week, I think. He knows a lot about football, but especially about the draft. And the draft is like 6 days away. So last time I had him on, I hadn't really done my homework. I was like, so tell me some wide receivers. I've been doing some homework, and I want to ask him more specific questions because
yes, sir.
He does his homework, and he's going to give us some free games, some free knowledge. But if you like what he says, subscribe to him on Patreon, subscribe to him on YouTube. He has in-depth breakdowns of all kind of receivers and prospects. So you'll learn. Anyway, let's start. I haven't told you this. I'm going to curveball right off the bat. Who is the top player on your draft board? Who's the best player in this draft?
Kyle Pitts. He's just, from my standpoint, the word, I feel like generational talent gets thrown out a little too much. And it's like, how is every year somebody's generational? But when you look at Kyle Pitts and what he is, right? I mean, we're talking about a 6'6", 245-pound tight end that runs 4.4s that can line up anywhere on the field. And I know there's some people like, oh, he's a receiver. In my opinion, yeah, like he's essentially a weapon. He's an offensive weapon, kind of like Kyle Juszczyk. But I want him to more times not have his hand in the dirt, because now I get to utilize him as a tight end and I get to affect the packages that defenses put in there. If you come out there and you try to play in the nickel defense because you want to be able to guard my tight end that has receiver skills, well, we'll just run at you and he'll move you from that standpoint. If you come out in a big package where it's more of a base defense and I split them out into the slot or put my receiver, now I have a mismatch there. So I just think he has like very fluid movements, very legit pass catching abilities where it's really natural, plays really big at the catch point. He's the best prospect I've seen. I think most people would say like, well, what about Vernon Davis? And I would say Vernon Davis was a legit athlete. Like he was a freak athlete, but he wasn't like a pure receiver. Like he caught the ball like my 4-year-old daughter, where she kind of just like hugs it.
He'd jump. Yeah.
Yeah. Like his hands weren't really all that natural. I think Kyle Pitts is more of a more fluid, natural tight end, pass catcher, blocks well. And I'd say overall, in my opinion, he's the best, probably would be number one on my board outside of maybe, one of the top quarterbacks.
I totally agree with you. I would put him number one, maybe number two behind Trevor Lawrence, but that high.
Yeah.
So my follow-up question is, how do you feel about the fact that the Niners are potentially going to not draft Kyle Pitts when he's going to be available?
I think that it is tough, and ideally you would wish that you had the quarterback position more, solidified. Yeah. The quarterback position at the end of the day is just the most important position on the field. So it's like you want to prioritize quarterback. It's like, I get it. It's like having Jalen Ramsey, who is a shutdown corner, right? Or having, Kirk Cousins. Like, yeah, I would rather have Ramsey. He's the better football player, but Cousins still is more important to like the win-loss column. So it's tough. Obviously, like in that position, you would love to be able to take a talent like that, but I just can't do it over a quarterback if that's a position that they are making into a need.
It's just interesting to understand that the Niners have a predicament. Like they're going to be passing on a player who most people would agree is the best tight end people have seen ever coming out of college in a long, long time.
Kellen Winslow was really good coming out, but still didn't have nearly the production. Obviously different. Yeah. I mean, he was with like McGahee and all these other, all these other running backs.
Shockey. I remember that.
Yeah. He came out of Shockey, but he was a legit pass catching tight end that was different. But since then, maybe Evan Ingram like could be kind of like the closest, like as a pure, prospect, pass catching receiver, tight end. But yeah, no, you're right. Like you don't see guys like this often, if ever.
Tough to pass on that, but makes sense if you don't have a quarterback. Got it. All right. Tommy Jake says, what do you think the Niners players feel about having a rookie quarterback come in this year? What do you think? It's kind of a vet team.
The NFL, it's a business, and I think people understand that. So it's like nothing that happens, you can't take it personal. Obviously, people want to win, and you just have to trust that the organization is going to put you in the best position to win moving forward. So, I'm pretty sure there are going to be a lot of guys that, really like Jimmy Garoppolo, but at the end of the day, you just understand it's a business, and, everybody has to do their job to continue to get paid the money that they want.
All right. So last time you were on, we were talking about wide receivers. I've been thinking more about what the Niners are looking for, and I feel like they're looking for a slot guy. I mean, I know they need to replace Kendrick Bourne, but Brandon Ayuk can do a lot of the stuff Kendrick Bourne does. I mean, he kind of took his role in the red zone last year. He's got the long arms. He can be a possession receiver, even though he's much more. It seems like the Niners definitely do need a slot guy, though. They have Jalen Hurd. They have Sanu, Jennings, a bunch of guys who could do it, but no one that's locked it up. Who would you say are the best slot receivers in this draft, or guys at different spots in the draft that you think are intriguing?
I'd say the most intriguing and a guy that I think would definitely fit with the 49ers, with what we've kind of seen over the last couple of years from their slot position. I don't know if he'll be their second round, but Terrace Marshall out of LSU, because he gives you everything. He gives you the total package. In 2019, when LSU had Jefferson and Jamar Chase, Terrace Marshall was just an outside guy. And even then, with all those guys being extremely productive, he got 13 touchdown passes. Oh, wow. And he's a terrific contested catch guy. He's good down the field. He's 6'3", about 200 pounds. He's like a longer linear guy. And he put up terrific numbers with them. Now, without them, it's like, okay, well, what is Terrace Marshall going to do now? Doesn't have as good of a quarterback situation, right? Joe Burrow's not throwing all those passes to you. Mm-hmm. You don't got Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson with you. What are you going to do now? And he had like 10 touchdown catches in 7 games. They did a really good job of really putting on full display of what he's good at. He lined up inside. He lined up outside. They used him as a possession guy. They used him to get open quick right now in the slot. They used him vertically from the slot where he just outran defenses and showed off that 4.38 speed he ran at his pro day. He's a terrific contested catch guy. He's an everything type receiver. And I think what I've seen with the 49ers, and, obviously, Trent Taylor, who was kind of he's just a slot, but everybody else has had more of the ability to play outside, play inside, tight splits. And I think Terrace Marshall would give the 49ers that slot element, kind of like Mohamed Sanu, but also the vertical threat as well, and the ability to play on the outside. So now all of my guys, I can utilize them and move them around and not have to pigeonhole a guy in one space.
And the one thing you said, also a contested catch guy. That was Kendrick Bourne. We've been talking about this for years. It's not George Kittle. It's not Deebo Samuel. Ayuk can do it, but that was Kendrick Bourne's job on the team, and now he's gone, and they're going to need to replace that. Ross Dwelley can do it, but they don't throw him that many passes, and he's not a wide receiver. So ideally, it would be someone who could have that skill set. Terrace Marshall has it. He's 6'3", he's big, kind of like Juwan Jennings, except good. Sorry, Juwan.
Yeah, good, fast, explosive. All of that. Can create separation, all of that. Win with routes, he can do it all.
You think
I think he's kind of,
43?
I don't want to say he's underrated, but I do think, people just view this class overall as a deep class, and I think he's in the mix of a guy that can go first round. Wouldn't be surprised if, maybe he's there in the 30s, and the 49ers, if they really like him and identify him as a guy that can help them, which I think he clearly can, and be a pure receiver that, like, Deebo's kind of not that. I could see maybe them potentially trading up for a guy like him.
All right, so let me ask you about a couple more slot receivers or guys that have been billed as slot receivers. Terrace Marshall's could be a big slot. He could play outside too. Seems to me the Niners have some big slot options that they're not willing to give up on yet. Hurd, Jennings, also Sanu, who's old. So let me ask you about some smaller guys who are fast, maybe could play outside because of their speed. How about Rondale Moore? What do you like about him, or what do you notice about him?
He's probably my favorite slot as far as what I've seen so far. Now, I think some people might knock him a little bit because he's only 5'7", right? But when you watch him on film, and you watch him like as a true freshman, how productive he was at Purdue, how he killed Ohio State, and everybody talks about the kid Sean Wade as he was really good in the slot. Well, he got destroyed by Rondale Moore, who was a true freshman. Yeah. And he shows all the ability to do everything that the 49ers like. Whether he's that quick, twitchy guy, get open right now, he gives you that. And he's a good safety blanket from that aspect. If you want a guy that can just get the ball in his hands and him catch passes or end arounds and all those things, he does that. But unlike some of the 49ers guys right now that just don't have that pure elite speed, he gives you that as well. So he's somebody that can
what did he run,
catch
like
a ball.
Something?
Yeah, like 4.3, low 4.3s, I believe.
Okay.
Maybe 4.3, but I want to say it was like 4.3, 4, something like that.
Okay.
And he literally has that type of speed, plays with that type of speed as well. Because it's one thing to kind of run a 40 like that. It's another thing to be able to play with that type of speed. And I think he does a tremendous job of that. So I say out of the guys that are like pure slots with him, Tony, the other Moore, Elijah Moore, I would say he's my favorite.
Now, I know like he's off the charts in pretty much every athletic measurement and with his production, but he's 5'7". So he's going to go pretty high in this draft. Like, do you have a thing against drafting wide receivers who are that short, that high in the draft? Is that a thing for you?
I think only if I plan on using this guy as an outside receiver as well. At 5'7", like it's one thing to be Steve Smith and be like 5'9", 5'10".
Yes.
But when you're shorter than that and you're only 5'7", and you're being asked to win on the outside, I'm pretty sure he can win there sometimes, make a living there. But what really happens is it shrinks the window for the quarterback. You were talking about that with Deebo Samuel going over the middle. I remember that after he was drafted.
Yes, absolutely.
The catch radius isn't big. Now, when you have a guy that's 5'7", that makes it even tougher where your quarterback has to be pinpoint with his accuracy. And there's no area you have no window of missing. So I think he's more of a guy that would probably purely play in the slot. And that's the only thing that I would say is a big negative about him being 5'7".
So the projection is like Trent Taylor or Wes Welker with serious speed.
Right. An elite skill set guy. Now, whether he has it mentally, and I think that's sometimes what's the difference between a guy like Wes Welker and I don't want to say like, oh, the white small receivers are all smart and the black small receivers isn't. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying like that would be the difference between why Wes Welker was so successful and if Rondale Moore isn't is probably that because maybe he doesn't get that part of the game.
Well, I do know that Purdue's head coach is Jeff Brom, who was a backup quarterback in the NFL, and I'm assuming is running an NFL type.
Was he a quarterback at Louisville? Was he a quarterback?
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
I don't know.
Yes,
how I
he was.
That,
so I would imagine that Rondale Moore is probably pretty advanced, but I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about another Moore, Elijah Moore. You mentioned him. He's fast too. He went to Ole Miss. They got a pretty good track record. What do you think?
Watching him, he just looked so small on field. And again, I'm not somebody that puts a whole lot into like the measurables. I want to go more off of how they play. But I just think when you're that tiny, like I'm looking at him like, man, he looks tiny. Like Rondale Moore is short, but he doesn't just look tiny when you're watching him on film. Watching Elijah Moore, real tiny, and I thought, okay, your game is all based off of speed. Like that's your game. And I didn't think that he consistently used his speed as a threat on each play. I thought there were times where I'm like, man, him running routes is not as explosive as I would ideally like to see. Now, obviously, like, he was very productive. I think he won at, different levels. But I would like to see for somebody that is a little more speedier, then smaller, so it's like going to be tough for him to win with any type of physicality. Can you learn to play with more high-end controlled speed as a receiver? That's one thing I would really like to see from him.
Also, it seems like the last couple of years, the Niners have been prioritizing like toughness over just pure speed at wide receiver. Every wide receiver they've taken has been able to break a tackle the last couple of years. So it doesn't seem like this guy really fits into that.
Not as much as Rondale Moore would.
Rondale Moore does. Okay. All right. Here's another guy. I'm just going through guys in the second round, basically, and I'm going to ask a guy on day 3. This guy, I don't know if he's a slot guy, but I was looking at his athletic testing. I mean, he ran like a 4.4. His 3 cone was like 6.6. I don't know much about Nico Collins. Can you tell me about him? Because he seems like a good athlete.
Yeah, so you're talking about the big receiver out of Michigan.
Out of Michigan, yes.
Yeah, so I didn't watch his 2020 film yet. I definitely watched him in 2019 when I saw that he was going to the Senior Bowl, and I was like, let me check him out. So I watched a few games, and it looked so-so. Yeah. But from what I've been told, and I watched him at the Senior Bowl. I thought at the Senior Bowl practice, he looked quicker. He looked like he was more of a vertical threat. He was using his speed a little bit more. And maybe it's because, we're just doing one-on-one. So one-on-ones, I can really showcase all my ability without having to think about what I'm doing or what the DB is doing in the game. So maybe his what we saw there from the Senior Bowl is his mind has to catch up with his physical capabilities, because in one-on-one looks sweet, does everything you want to see. In team, at least for Michigan, in the games I watched, it looked like he was thinking a little too much. And I saw a little tiny corner, wasn't last name Hicks or something like that, I was watching, I think, Wisconsin. I always get Wisconsin and Nebraska confused, but it was one of those teams. Yeah. And just letting this little guy kind of lock him up. And I'm like, I don't necessarily care to see that. I want to see you look more physically opposing, especially when you have the bigger build. And I didn't quite see it there, but I did see some of that at the Senior Bowl, so that was encouraging.
Yeah. The reason I look at him is he seems like, well, I looked at his NFL draft profile that compared him to N'Keal Harry, which is funny because you and I argued a lot about him and you were right and I was wrong. But I think the Niners liked N'Keal Harry from what I heard. They liked him and they were actually considering taking him. If this guy's like him, I mean, Jawan Jennings is kind of like that too. Big guy who doesn't create a lot of separation, but is a contested catch guy. I mean, that's kind of Bourne, although Bourne can get open to give Bourne credit. So is Nico Collins in that Jawan Jennings mold? I mean, well, why would you take that guy second round if you can't get open?
I would have a tough time taking it and like valuing that in, that high and we'll get into some mid-round guys, but there's a couple mid-round guys I would like that give me that big catch ability, but also can work more to create separation underneath.
Okay, let me ask you one more guy, and then you can tell me who you think they'll take. This is courtesy of Mr. Roscoe's. He's always telling me about the USC players. He's like, man, you got to check out this guy every year. So he says, I don't know how to pronounce it. Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah.
He's a slot guy. What do you think of him? Mr. Rocco says he's good. Okay.
Yeah. No. I like him. I think he plays with that physical style that Kyle Shanahan would like. I think he has enough ability to win on the outside to where he's kind of more of a versatile piece that the 49ers would probably like. I think ideally his fit is in the slot, but his dad was like a Mr. Olympian or something like that.
Oh wow.
And he's the brother of St. Brown. Yeah, for
nice.
the Packers. So he's not as tall as his brother, but has that good bloodline. Didn't run as fast as his brother, but I think he definitely plays with enough craftiness and stuff like that. I would compare him to like Jeremy Curley, like that.
I like Jeremy Curley. I always thought he was
probably a little bit more of a physical presence to him. But and I was on the Jets with Jeremy Curley, so I know Jeremy Curley was solid. He had that ability. He was probably ideally more of a slot, but could play on the outside.
Yeah, for sure.
I think
he was the Niners' best receiver one year, 2016.
He was
definitely their
and
best
I don't know
receiver.
if that says more about him or what the 49ers were at that time.
True. But he played well that year. Give him credit.
He did, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so it seems to me that St. Brown could be a guy you get round 3, round 4. And I don't know about you, but that's a little bit more like palatable for me. If they go wide receiver round 2 for like the 4th year in a row or whatever, I don't know. I think the Niners have bigger needs at corner. But if they get Rondale Moore, I could probably get with it. He seems pretty good. But
I like the thoughts of him. And as somebody that can do returns and stuff. Rondale Moore, though, like the one thing, and maybe he fits in with the 49ers with this, he has dealt with some injuries. Now, I don't know. I evaluate just the film, but I know there is some injury history to him as well.
And that's something the Niners need to take into account because it's something like they've been ignoring for 4 years and it's gotten them in trouble. So that's one organization that needs to think about that. All right. So I've been sort of pigeonholing you into slot receivers. Last time we talked, you were into Dyami Brown, who doesn't seem like a slot receiver. He seems more like an outside guy. So if you do think the Niners, they could take one of each. They take 2 wide receivers a lot. If they take a slot receiver, who do you think it'll be? And then we could talk about non-slot receivers you like as well, if you'd like.
Obviously, it depends on, how the board falls. Like, there's some people, I saw some people in the comments like, we need a cornerback. And my thing is, like, I agree. I think you definitely want to prioritize corner. I also think that receiver is probably as big of a need as well. So obviously it just depends on where that board falls. If we're talking about second round, I'm hoping that I can get a guy that is just more versatile because second round, that's kind of a high value pick still. That's somebody that you're planning on coming in and really being a guy. Right?
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of value in that pick. So I would go more with a Terrace Marshall, where I'm like, dude, this dude's legit. He wins and he gives me everything, and he adds something we don't have on the roster at all, on top of being able to give us some of the other things. So that's probably the first person I would go to. If not him, I really love Dyami Brown.
Yeah.
I think Dyami Brown, the best is yet to come. He was a guy that's kind of pigeonholed into that UNC offense where they just run 3 routes, go route, stop route, out route, same thing that they gave with DK Metcalf, occasional in-breaking route, slant maybe here and there. But he shows a lot of twitch, suddenness. He has a lot of craftiness, understands leverage, all of that. Like, I feel like once he gets to the NFL, if a team is like, you know what, you got a lot to you, let's start moving this dude around. Let's play him outside. Let's motion him down, tight split, stacks, different things like that. Free him up in space. I'm pretty sure Dyami Brown will like it too. Like, damn, I don't just have to win on go routes all day. Now I get to actually use my athleticism and show that I can do more. So he's a guy that's extremely intriguing as well, that if he's there second round, I might prioritize, getting somebody like him.
We've been talking for years about like the sweet spot in the draft to take a wide receiver. We like years. And I always look at the Steelers because they're very like consistent with their approach. Like, we're going to take you between 50 and 75 every year, and we're going to bat like 750. It's going to work out most of the time, and it does. And the Niners are real close to that sweet spot. At 43, they could take a guy there. They could trade down. It seems like it's tough to find a really good receiver after like the 75th pick in the draft. It's a premium position. It's hard. You can do it. So what I'm asking is, where do you think the Niners ideally should take a wide receiver in this draft?
I'd say third round. Like, if in a perfect world, if there's somebody there, third round, because one thing that, you know, has really like kind of been a big thing lately, receivers are coming in and they're able to be more productive than ever before.
Yes.
Out the gate as rookies. We're seeing that even with the 49ers. I know people might look at Trent Taylor and he ain't on the team anymore, but have 40-something catches as a rookie. You know, you had Dante Pettis. He had like 500 yards as a rookie. So you've been able to get production out of rookies. And then obviously Deebo Samuel, very productive as a rookie. Yeah. Ayuk, very productive as a rookie.
Lots of teams do it. Yeah.
And those guys were both, you know, obviously Ayuk was a late first, Deebo second round. But you're able to
Terry
get
McLaurin round 3, Chase Claypool round 3.
Yeah, all these guys very productive. So I don't think, like, I hear people saying you got to draft, you know, Chase top 10. And why would I? Only pass catcher I'm taking top 10 is Kyle Pitts.
Agreed.
All these other guys do. I could see somebody get taken in the third round, go to a solid situation like a 49er team, and be just as productive as Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase, who you took in the top 10. So,
because that guy could be with a better wide quarterback than Jamar Chase, and that's such a big deal.
Right. I would say I really like, you know, like third round, being that sweet spot, getting a guy, maybe even fourth round. There's a guy at Arkansas State, Jonathan Adams. He reminds me a lot of Brian Edwards, who I was really high on last year. But, you know, he's a 6'3" guy. He didn't test extremely well, but if you watch him on film, has nice, good quickness, twitchiness, does a good job setting up routes, can line up outside. He mostly lined up outside, but he can play inside. Wins vertically. We talk about playing big at the catch point, being like a red zone threat because you're missing Kendrick Bourne. I think he gives you that and more. So he's a guy, if you guys ever want to see him, I've watched the film and seen some plays and some stuff on Twitter. Go watch some Jonathan Adams highlights and visualize what he could bring to the 49ers team. And I think he's a guy that's going to be there 4th or 5th round.
Only you would know a wide receiver from Arkansas State. Did you go to Arkansas State?
No, I went to University of Arkansas, Monticello.
Okay. Are you close to Arkansas State?
Yeah, I'm not far from Arkansas State.
Okay, so he's in your backyard. You know, that's cool.
Yeah.
So if they take a wide receiver before that, let's say they trade up in round 3 to pick 75, somewhere around there. Diami Brown, that's your guy?
Yeah, I like Diami Brown a lot.
Can you play both inside and outside? Give me a little refresher on what his skill set is.
I believe he has the ability to.
Yeah,
UNC just didn't do it at all. They used him, and it was almost like he got kind of bored of just being this, dang, you want me to run a go again? Or dang, I just got to run a stop route again. At some point, you see corners sitting on his routes. I remember watching Deebo Samuel, and DK Metcalf, and people were like, oh, DK Metcalf, he got erased by Greedy Williams. And I was like, well, he didn't run an in-breaking route until 1 minute left in the third quarter.
Yeah.
All he ran was 5-yard stop, 10-yard stop, go route. And I want to say he's reading the defender. So the defender is like upfield shoulder, he sets his route down. If his receiver, if the corner is underneath, he'll take it on the go. And he's kind of reading that. So if you're greedy and you know that, it's like, well, I'm at LSU. They coach us up very well. I know what you're doing. You ain't doing nothing different.
I'm just as fast as you.
So I'm just going to challenge you. And now everything's going to be contested because you're not doing a lot. Well, that was kind of Diami Brown, where he was still winning vertically and a lot and being consistent with it. But I think he has the ability, like you see him with his feet, he starts to change up his releases. I think he plays with good pace. I think he threatens guys vertically very well. Yeah. He's tough. I was looking at him, and my comp for him was, and I don't like to do like these extreme comps.
Sure.
But it was Devontae Adams. Like that was what I saw on film. Somebody who like runs very well vertically, but you know, Devontae Adams isn't like a blazer, but it's like, damn, he's always winning vertical. I think he gives you that. I think he has nice twitch and suddenness right now to create that separation. Obviously, he can add to that as he gets to the next level, but he gave me a lot of those things, and he played really physical, like where he's not just going out of bounds. It's like, man, I'm gonna catch you. I'm gonna try to run through you. And And I was surprised to see when he weighed in at 6'1", 190 pounds, because he played like somebody that was 6'2", 215 pounds.
Oh, wow. Okay. A couple questions. Felix says, what about Tutu Atwell as someone who might be there in the third or fourth? Is he 155 pounds?
I think 149 pounds.
Jeez, man. Hey,
That's
JJ
like
Nelson is light, but like, wow. Yeah. I don't know, man. I saw him. He's fast. He's cool. I was watching him this morning, but yeah.
You better be fast if you weigh 140 pounds.
You gotta run for your life. Sherm says, late round Dax Millen thoughts. I don't know who that is.
I
you know who that is?
No,
sorry, man. All right, let's move on. Okay. Who is the best cornerback in this draft?
Oh, it's hard to say. I have guys in tiers.
Okay.
With the corners, so I would say there's 4 guys where I would be like, if I had any of these 4 guys, I would be lucky to have them, and I think they have their different strengths and their different weaknesses, but overall they're terrific prospects. And that's J.C. Horn, Patrick Surtain, Greg Farley, and Greg Newsome, or Greg Farley,
Caleb
Farley, and Greg Newsome. Now, if you were to say which one do you think in 3 years would be the best, I would say Caleb Farley.
Oh, wow.
I think he's just that freakish of an athlete. I think his ability, like when the ball's in the air, is kind of like Deion Sanders, where Deion, when the ball's in the air, you know how Deion just closes extremely well, and then he's able to attack the ball high point as if he's the receiver, which Deion did play some receiver, but he attacks the ball in the air in that way. Farley gives you that. He has this extreme explosiveness to his game. Now, he's a little more raw than some of the other guys. He's not as technically refined. You can tell he's still a little new transitioning to the position, and obviously you factor in some of his injury concerns and issues.
He didn't play last year, right?
I mean, didn't play, and then still hurt his back and had to get back surgery. So I don't even know how that happened. So those
and the Niners have some bad luck with the back surgery with Jalen Hurd, D4. But still doesn't mean this guy's the same. It's different. You don't know.
Yeah, you don't know. But I think this is the second time he's had this back injury. So
he's the best. He's the best athlete. You're telling me.
On film, he has the highest ceiling.
Okay,
I'd say that.
And so let's stick with him. Is he the one that's most likely of the 4 that you mentioned to drop to 43?
Yeah, if any of those guys are going to drop, maybe Newsome. And Newsome is another one that has had some injury issue, hasn't played a ton. But his film, I thought he overall had the best film out of all the cornerbacks. I thought he was the most scheme versatile. A guy who, no matter what scheme if you're a press scheme, he can do that extremely well. Read receivers down very well. Was able to challenge guys at the catch point. If you're an off scheme team and you want to play more like cover 4 quarters, things like that, does that extremely well. Challenges himself in space with his feet. There's some guys that have to play with anticipation. He's a guy that can play with anticipation, but also can react extremely well with his feet from off coverage. So he plays with like this scrappiness and like this cockiness. When I was watching him, I'm like, damn, like this is like watching Jair Alexander. So he's that type of guy. But I come to find out because I'm watching him on film, I'm thinking he's a 5'10", 185-pound guy. He's 6 foot 192. So he has good size, has all the ability, ran in the 4.3s at his pro day, tested out the charts. There's a lot to like about him, but obviously, like he did miss time. So, you know, that's on a team to figure out his injury issues and how important those are to their evaluation.
In terms of Farley, though, if he drops to 43, would that be like, if he was on the board and Rondale Moore were on the board, who would you take?
Farley.
Why?
Because receiver, you can kind of manufacture production. Corner, you're either good or you can't play. And then at that point, I think nobody would fault you for taking a risk on a player that has that elite type of upside. I think you can look at, like, you know, the Jacksonville Jaguars or the Dallas Cowboys a few years back when one team took Miles Jack, when they were talking about Miles Jack, his knee would never be the same.
Right.
And he ended up, I mean, last year, nobody's talking about because Jacksonville sucks, but he had his best year as a pro last year, played terrific at middle linebacker. He's still playing. Somebody who they were really concerned with his knee. You look at
UCLA.
UCLA played running back there, crazy, right?
Yes, he did.
And then you look at who the Cowboys took. They took from Notre Dame.
Oh yeah. Jalen.
He had the whole drop field. Jalen Smith had the whole drop foot and all this other stuff.
Yes.
They were talking about him, his knee, maybe never playing again and whatnot. But it's like, you know what? I'm gonna take a risk on this high-end talent that maybe is hurt, but second round is like, if it works out, we hit big like Jacksonville did. Like Dallas hasn't had as big, but they've had a consistent starter.
Okay, so Caleb Farley seems like he might be BPA on your board at 43, but there's a chance he won't go because a lot of people look at him as a top 10 prospect with just injury issues. So let's move down a little bit. We talked about Tyson Campbell last time. Have you watched a little bit more of him, the Georgia guy? What do you think? I think he ran like a 4.2 something.
He ran in the 4.3s. You know, he was a fast guy. He's a 10.3 guy coming out of high school. So he's he's a guy. God. Yeah, he was like the state 100 state 100 and 200 meter champion in Florida. So, you know, we're talking about somebody that has terrific speed, has good length. On film, he looks like somebody that's like 6'2", 200 pounds.
He does.
He measured in at 6'1", like 192. So he has good length, has good size. His movement skills are good. I think between him and Surtain, those are probably the two most patient corners at the line of scrimmage I've probably ever seen. I think he does it really
patient for people.
So at the line of scrimmage, like you can kind of get sped up mentally, right, with your feet. So some guys is like they kind of almost get like in a panic depending on what the receiver does with them. So if there's a receiver that's really quick and twitchy and he just tries to give you all that and it's like, oh, and your feet kind of get like, oh, then now you're trying to catch up and react and it kind of throws off your time clock for the rest of the route and all your technique
just goes out the window.
Kind of goes out the window.
Yep.
They are like never really in a panic. They are typically right there at the line of scrimmage. You can do all this moving and they just kind of sit there. And I wasn't somebody that was able to do that. Most guys aren't. We see Richard Sherman, sometimes he does that thing where he punches and turns and does that speed turn thing. It's really hard to consistently be patient like that. And Tyson Campbell, he's one of the best that I've seen at just staying at the line of scrimmage, not moving, not creating any type of space, and then just effortlessly getting hands-on. I think if there's one big knock on him, it would be he maybe lost a little bit too many battles at the catch point, where we saw it happen twice against Florida, where, I mean, we're talking about Kyle Pitts and Grimes. Grimes 6'4", Kyle Pitts 6'6", you know, elite tight end. But there are a few times he just lost at the catch point. But aside from that, he has the ability, scrappiness, cockiness. I love the way he plays, his energy, all that. So that he's one of my favorite corners I've watched in the class. Really good, and I think he could be there. He could potentially be there at 43. I think so. Now, will he be? I don't know. But there's, you know, Eric Stokes, the other Georgia corner. Will somebody look at him who has more elite traits? In the sense of just a 4'2", 40, and he has just as much size. Like, will somebody cover that more and not allow somebody like Campbell to slide and 49ers be able to take somebody like Campbell and come in and probably be one of 49ers' better corners?
So if either one is there at 43, you think that'd be a solid pick?
Yes, I'm going with Campbell. I think he's just a little bit more consistent from what I've seen.
All right, there's one more guy that the Niners should get later on in the draft in day 2 who's taller. I keep coming back that like Kyle has these specific, I don't know, visions for positions, and he drafted Akello Witherspoon and wanted something there. And I guess felt that Akello didn't deliver it. But there's another guy in this draft, the one guy who's 6'3", Melifonwu, his Obi's little brother. Have you watched him much? Is he going to be someone that Kyle Shanahan is going to see as like a Akello Witherspoon replacement?
No. So I've watched him. I would say with him, I like him. I think a team is going to be intrigued by his ability to play press and play off, especially for his size. I mean, he's somebody that's like 6'3", 215 pounds, whatever, like really big dude. I would say his movement skills are just a little lumbering. So when you compare him to like
Akello,
Witherspoon,
who well,
really good movement skills for somebody his size. Melifonwu isn't as fluid or as like has that the feet or twitch, but he plays more at one speed. But I think it's he has kind of mastered playing with his body size. He's more of a kind of Brandon Browner type guy, than he is quicker, more fluid guy.
He's not going to mirror you, but he could beat you up at the line of scrimmage a little bit.
And but again, he has shown to be able to play off coverage. They did a lot of that at Syracuse with him.
Antonio says, if not a corner, would rather get a safety at 43, or do you see a late round guy who can cover the slot? Well, hold on. We're going to get to safety. That's our final topic. But before we get there, I want to ask you just like a prediction, or however you want it. Like, which corner do you think the Niners will take? You think they'll target a corner in round 2 for the first time since Shante Spencer? And if so, like, what do you think they're going to do here? Because I tweeted the other day that if Jason Verrett gets hurt, the Niners have a terrible secondary. You agreed with it. Every Niner fan was like, dang, he's right. We got to do something. Yeah.
And again, I look at that position and the receiver position. They're the same. Like, just imagine if Deebo Samuel goes down. Like, what do you have at receiver? You got Ayuk and what else? You know what I'm saying? Like, the cornerback position is
new.
Right. The cornerback position is just as bad. Like, if if Verrett, who has had injury issues, goes down, now you're leaning on who? Dante Johnson to come out. So now you got what? Dante Johnson and Mosley. And Mosley, I don't know. We'll see.
We'll
but
see.
At the end of the year last year, they had Witherspoon in. Agreed. And they didn't play him in the nickel when I thought they would. They played Dante Johnson. So I don't know if they're telling us how they feel about him. And even the money they gave him like low end starting money for a cornerback. So how much do they believe in him? So if you have a guy go down, Mosley, Verrett go down, you're in trouble at the cornerback position. So if one of them went down, I would love to have like a Tyson Campbell, and I think he fits. Do I think he's not in my tier 1 of corners, but he's on the edge of that to where I feel like, hey, this is potentially a good starting cornerback in the NFL.
Okay, then let's do safety, because I think you could argue that that's right up there with wide receiver and cornerback in terms of needs. I mean, Jimmy Ward's done well the last 2 years to stay healthy, but he's in his 30s and he's signed for 1 more year. Jaquaski Tart on 2 more years. Tart's on a 1-year deal and he misses almost half of every year. I mean, you have to at least prepare for that. Right. No offense, Jaquaski. I like you a lot. What do you think the Niners do as safety or should do? Who do you like in the first couple of rounds?
I think the tough thing when you look at the 49ers and their safety position is, like, you do have Ward, you do have Tart, and you still have Marcel Harris and Tavares Moore, who all have like starting experience. Yes. So I think I have a hard time thinking like, hey, we're going to draft a safety in the second round to come in, because second round I'm expecting you to be a starter. Yes. So if I draft you second round, who am I playing you over? Am I just right now playing you over Tart, who is a solid starter when he's healthy? Am I right now taking you over or playing you over Ward? I have a hard time seeing that. And then even then, I really feel like they're comfortable with playing Tavares Moore or Harris in a pinch. Now, let's say hypothetically, they're regardless of that, we are going to take a safety. I really like the thoughts of Javon Holland.
Fishbowl out. It's my high school.
Yeah. Okay. So I like the thoughts of Javon Holland. What I like about him, Oregon played him in the nickel, and he was primarily a nickel guy for them.
Oh wow.
I don't think he's that. Like, I don't think he's like just this pure like nickel corner guy with those type of moving skills, but he can play there in a pinch. So that's good to see. I think he can cover. Is he a cover guy? I don't know, but I think he has tremendous like anticipation. I think he reads down routes good. I think if I were to see him in more of a 2 high or single high, I don't doubt at all that he can be that type of guy to play that type of coverage, and he's a playmaking safety. So I like
he's got the versatility that Tart and Ward have.
Yeah. And Tart, I like that you mentioned Tart with versatility, because a lot of people don't look at him like that. They look at him as just a box guy, but he is somebody that covers very well. For the most part, tight ends. He did single high. We see him get picks. I thought he played extremely well single high a couple years ago. Obviously, he plays in the box well, tackles well. He's just injured too much, and you would like to see him take the ball away a little bit more. But whatever.
No, he's a good player when he's healthy. He's a good player.
But I would say, Holland, actually, my comp to him was Tart. Because I thought from when they closed down, they played Holland a lot around the line of scrimmage. Thought he tackled extremely well. I thought even coming down from space where, you have to make an open field tackle, he wasn't missing. He was making all those tackles with no leak yardage. Thought he did that very well. So he has the ability to play, I think, be versatile to play down, single high. They just didn't do a lot of that with him at Oregon.
Okay, I'm going to let you go real quick, but before I do, I want to just go through the first 3 picks, our best predictions. It sounds like, although we both think Kyle Pitts is special, we think the Niners probably won't go that direction. And you're expecting what? Justin Fields at number 3?
Trey Lance.
You're expecting Trey Lance. Tell me why.
Yeah. I look at it just kind of, I try to listen to some of the things they say and read between the lines. And they were so bullish on keeping Jimmy Garoppolo for another year and not having to play a rookie quarterback. And then you start to hear all these different things about Trey Lance. And we see the intangibles, right? We also see the inconsistencies.
Yes.
But when you start to hear John Beck talk about Trey Lance and him say, hey, listen, he comes to me and says, listen, don't lie to me. Don't sugarcoat it. What do I need to improve on? He's calling them scouts. What's your guys' scouting report on me? What do I need to improve on? Somebody that's able to work on the things that he maybe needs to improve on. Okay, it's my footwork. Let me really go hard on that. And those are the type of guys that end up being, quote unquote, kind of the outlier, where it's like, man, how did this guy make this jump from this to this? It's well, behind the scenes, he's working extremely hard. And then when you just kind of find out what they did with him there, right? He did a lot of what Kyle Shanahan already does with, the play action passes and stuff like that. He can make those throws. Again, some of it inconsistent due to a little technique, but it's like, well, I can improve on my technique. They put a lot on him mentally to come to the line of scrimmage. Well, first of all, call plays in the huddle, which most of these guys don't even do. Go to the line of scrimmage, call out his line protections and everything. We're talking about doing all this as a 19-year-old freshman. And I know people kind of want to knock, like, well, he's at Division I AA, FCS level. But it's like, man, he did that on the biggest stage because he's at the biggest school in that division with all the pressure on his shoulders. And not only did he play well, they went undefeated and won every which way, whether it was him throwing balls downfield with his legs. And I just looked at Kyle
threw no picks. He played better at the same school than Carson Wentz did.
Now, there were some passes that probably could have been intercepted, but even regardless, because most guys you factor in, they're going to throw a couple picks. Just the fact that even then, he still did a really good job of taking care of the ball. I think Kyle is going to really like that. I think there's a skill set to where you can utilize right now if you had to play him, and he can do well. But I think moving forward, when you find out somebody that has that type of mindset, and we see what Josh Allen, I'm not saying he's Josh Allen, but we're saying, we see the progress that Josh Allen has made and why he's made it and why you hear about, like, I see Trey Lance being that one person that can make those same type of jumps. And I think Kyle Shanahan is like, we were going to ride with Jimmy this year. Why was he so bullish on that? I think because he has a kind of a plan to ease in somebody like Trey Lance.
Yeah, and like Josh Allen, Trey Lance was totally overlooked coming out of high school. He was not someone who was scouted heavily, rated highly by rivals. He really had to prove it himself, and by the end, it's like, I'm the best athlete in this draft. You guys need to see that.
I like that you brought that up because there is something to it, and I talked to my son about this, about like a mindset. And him being somebody that was recruited, and it's like Minnesota's like, well, yeah, we like you. We'll offer you a scholarship. We know how much you want to go to Minnesota. Like, that was the school he wanted to go to. So it's like, we'll bring you here, but you gotta play safety. And he's like, nah, I'm a quarterback, and I'm gonna show you guys, I'm gonna show everybody else. And he went freshman. When he was a true freshman, as he was redshirting, he was in there watching film on NFL teams and watching their defenses. Like he like studying that, trying to see what that looks like and go through reads and things like that. So this is a different level type of kid. And they say he interviews off the charts. Quincy Avery, his quarterback coach, said he's the brightest kid quarterback he's ever been around. And he also has worked a lot with Justin Fields, who is supposedly extremely bright as well.
Absolutely.
So there's just too much good about this guy, and the negatives can definitely be improved. Is it risky? It's risky as hell. But I'd say, man, it's already risky using 3 first-round picks on one guy. So you might as well take a big swing.
I do think he has a chance to be great. We'll see. I think he actually has the best chance to be great of all the quarterbacks not named Trevor Lawrence. He has some serious upside. Round 2, you think Tyson Campbell if he's there?
I'm going to go Tyson Campbell.
Okay. And then in round 3, you think the Niners make a little move up for Diami Brown?
If Diami Brown is there, I think you have to do it. Okay. Now that's a range where you might start to look at other positions.
A lot of day 3 picks. They can make a move up a few spots.
Yeah. So they might start to factor in edge rusher. They might factor in interior offensive line. I mean, we'll see if they want to put some depth there. But for my money, what I would do when I look at that receiver room and I see, I got Ayuk, Debo, and Sanu, I need to prioritize receiver moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Eric, thank you so much. It's 11 o'clock. I appreciate you giving me your time. Make sure you subscribe to his Patreon, his YouTube, his Twitter, his Cornerback Academy. Eric is the hardest working dude in the game. Make sure you're following his stuff. Eric, thanks a lot, man.
I appreciate you, man. Anytime.
And he's going to be on with Jesse Naylor tonight. He's seriously working hard, man. So make sure you watch him again tonight.
Yes, sir. I'll be on.
Yup.